Honorable Minister of the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sport, Honorable Sunday Dare, to this event. It is my great pleasure to start off this event, and I ask all of us to take the national anthem. If I will also, before we take the national anthem, can we have NESG please go out live on the link, so that our audience that have been waiting patiently for us out there can now join us and be part of us.
I think they're already streaming live on YouTube.
Fantastic, fantastic. So without much ado, let us take the national anthem. Please unmute your mics and let's take the national anthem on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. I'm not sure we'll win any prizes at the musical contest, but the idea is what is important. Honorable Minister, it's our pleasure to welcome you here today to this epoch-making event. And given that we've been running a little bit late, we understand the exigencies of national duty. It is indeed my pleasure for us to move ahead on the program for the presentation of the draft 2020 National Sports Industry Policy to the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Mr. Sunday Dare, today, Tuesday, July 28, 2020. To set us off on this program, I would be calling on Dr. Ikenna Nwosu to give us, I understand nobody can see me, so I'm like a ghost. So please pardon me. Let me put my camera on. Now, can you all see me? Thank you very much.
Yes, we
so
can.
I'd like to call on Dr. Ikenna Nwosu to give us the introductions and a brief opening remark about today's event. Dr. Nwosu, please can you unmute your mic? And I'm going to ask that house rules so that everything is clear to the people watching. All mics other than Dr. Ikenna Nwosu should be muted. Doctor, please unmute your mic and start your video. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nkechi-Obi. Good afternoon, Honorable Minister and everybody. On behalf of the Sports Industry Working Group, I humbly welcome all of you to this epoch event today, which is the handover official presentation of the draft National Sports Industry Policy by the Sports Industry Working Group, which is a public-private dialogue platform between the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sport Development, Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. In line with established protocol, the Honorable Minister, Federal Ministry of Youth and Sport Development, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Honorable Sunday Dare, the Permanent Secretary of the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sport Development, and co-chair public sector of the SIWG, Mr. Gabriel Aduda, the private sector co-chair of the SIWG and Director of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, Mr. Udeme Ufot, Honorable States Commissioners for Sports and States Chairmen of Sports Commissions, Directors of the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sport Development, Federal Republic of Nigeria, and Directors of States Ministries of Sports, other representatives of federal and state ministries, departments, and agencies, distinguished members of the SIWG, the CEO of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, and board members of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, members of the Sports Industry Thematic Group of the NESG, and other distinguished members of the NESG, presidents of all sports federations in the Federal Republic of Nigeria and their members, members of the Nigerian sports community, members of the international sports community, members of the organized private sector, businessmen and entrepreneurs, distinguished members of the press, which is the fourth estate of the realm, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I repeat that on behalf of the Sports Industry Working Group, today it is my pleasure and my privilege to welcome all of you to this special event, which is the outcome of several years and recently several months of joint efforts, painstaking efforts, ably led by the Honorable Minister for Youth and Sports Development of Federal Republic of Nigeria, Honorable Sunday Dare, culminating in a collaboration with the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. And today, we are very pleased to be presenting to the Honorable Minister a draft National Sports Industry Policy document, which will, going forward, after due approval and validation and approval, serve as a basis for opening up a new economic sector in Nigeria that will drive new revenue streams and new employment streams. So, without much ado, I urge maximum participation, and on behalf of the entire team, I welcome you once again to this epoch event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ikenna-Nwosu, for that short introduction and your opening remarks. And that's going to set us on our way to asking, I'm going to ask our two co-chairs, the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Gabriel Aduda, Public Sector Co-Chair of the Sports Industry Working Group, who Dr. Ikenna-Nwosu has informed us were responsible for coordinating the whole process from about May till July of getting this draft policy done, and Mr. Udeme Ufot, the Private Sector Co-Chair, to please give us their welcome comments. First, I'll call on the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports, Mr. Gabriel Aduda, to give us his welcome comments. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Nkechi. Let me also thank Ikenna. Let me begin my very short speech by thanking immensely the Honorable Minister for Youth and Sports Development, Mr. Sunday Dare, for this very, very historic milestone that we have achieved at this point in time. We are all aware that attempts have been made in the past, but for whatever reason, this policy draft did not see the light of day. But here we've been able to achieve the political will that is necessary for this to go forward. Let me also thank my co-chair, the management of the NESG, the members of the private sector that have assiduously worked on this draft policy, and thank everyone that has contributed from the civil society sector, the private sector, and even the the public sector itself because we have quite a number of our people that have worked with you to get where we are. And having said that, let me also assure the team that the first leg is what we have just achieved in this job, putting up the draft. Now we need to take this draft to the marketplace, if you like, where we will present to other stakeholders, especially the public sector, where we will beat it about and come back to us in-house. And then after which we will perhaps round off with a validation session. And then from there, we will take the very necessary steps that will lead to our seeking approval from the Federal Executive Council and all. So yes, we agree completely that the permanent secretary in person of myself will be leading the next leg of activities as we see. But I'm comforted in the fact that I have a very able minister, one that is very committed to the process, and one that has both his feet, legs, and arms, name it, into this process. So with that, I know that with my able soldiers, my foot soldiers, my directors and all, that we will put in our very best to be able not only to keep to time, but to see where it is possible to beat time and to bring out the very best that will serve our needs as a nation. So this is not morning for long speeches. I want to once again thank everyone on this meeting and also assure you that the ministry is ready to take the very next step. I will at this point hand over to my co-chair. Co-chair, sir.
Thank you, my
co-chair. Your mic is muted.
Yeah, now you can hear me. Thank you, my co-chair. The Honorable Minister for Sports and Youth Development, Mr. Ndedare, permit me to stand on all already established protocol. Let me first and foremost thank God Almighty for the grace to see this day. It's been quite a journey. And when I cast my mind back to the last Nigeria Economic Summit, where the Honorable Minister virtually hijacked the thematic industry group out of the summit to his ministry and shared with us his thoughts for national policy on sports. From that day, it has been a breathtaking breeze, a quick ride through difficult times as we now experience on account of COVID-19. It's been a dizzying ride, no letting up. And the passion of the minister has seen us through, supported us, and driven us to this point. And it's truly amazing how time flies. But here we are. He sent us off on an errand, and we are back today to say, Honorable Minister, what you sent us to do, we've come to present to you in public. So I want to thank you very much, sir, for the passion, the commitment, the drive, and the inspiration that has brought us to this day. Let me also thank my co-chair for the support and for the unique partnership that has been brought to this project. At the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, we've, over the last 26 years of summits process, partnered effectively with the federal government of Nigeria, being a public-private sector partnership. And one thing is for sure that what we've achieved on this platform with the Sports Industry Working Group and the Minister of Sports and Development has been truly an exemplary partnership that I think other policy commissions would envy. And this is thanks to the people on the government side on this project who have been very supportive and very cooperative. I think I should mention the very foundation work that the thematic group of the NESG have done that brought us to the summit and to this stage. I thank all of them for what they've done. My colleagues on the Sports Industry Working Group, I thank them also. And I thank the members of this project, all volunteers from both the public and private sector who have made this possible. But of course, what has brought us today are the eggheads, the wise men who gave their time to draft this policy. And I thank the members of the Policy Drafting Committee for what they have done, which we are going to present today. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all very much for coming together. And I'm very, very confident that this again, as we bring to an end the first phase and set to begin the second phase of this policy that we hope and believe very confidently will transform sports in Nigeria. I thank you all for making it happen. I thank the minister most especially, and my co-chair, and all those who did all of this for making today possible. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Odeme Ufot and Mr. Gabriel Aduda, for those heartwarming, reassuring words. I understand that looking at the program, it says I'm supposed to give a brief overview of the policy document. My name is Nkechi Obi. I'm the thematic lead of the sports industry thematic group of the NESG. And Zeno will share, when I give him a prompt, he will share what a little bit about what the document is. But let me just take you through a very short road map. The Honorable Minister, sometime throughout this, since he signed the collaboration agreement with the MOU with the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, had pushed that if we didn't do anything this year, we needed to be sure that the policy, at least the statement of intent of the government about sports would come up. And so by January, by February, when he set up the sports industry working group, it was clear that this was what was going to happen. And then COVID interrupted. But that did not deter us. If we could not meet, we could at least work virtually as demanded by COVID. So by May, a 56-man policy development and drafting committee was officially constituted by the Sports Industry Working Group Coordinating Committee, with membership cutting across several public, private, social enterprise sectors. The legal field, I must confess that the legal field had a very large presence because of their professional capacity in this area. And this committee was co-led by Mr. Peter Nelson, Director, Planning, Monitoring and Information of the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, and Mr. Chijioke Okoli, SAN, from the private sector, somebody who has always been part of the process that we started more than 4 or 5 years ago. So we were given a task that we needed to finish between May and June. In fact, it was supposed to be 6 weeks, and it was in 3 phases. We were asked to review the 2009 National Sports Policy and the 2018 Draft National Policy to determine what the gaps were and what will be required to address those gaps. Oh my goodness, I'm not in. I went off.
You're in, we can hear you.
I'm in. So what happened? Okay, I thought I was out for a minute. Okay, so I apologize. So we were given 6 weeks to do this task. And the first task was essentially review 2009 and the 2018 draft policy and determine what were the issues. This team had 2 days to perform, 2 weeks to perform their task, and was led by Professor Sadiq Abdullahi and Dr. Ademola Are. So they were known as the review team. Then they became the Where We Wish to Be team, which were known as the harmonization and validation team. And they reviewed recommended documents from all the stakeholder sessions that had been held over a 4-year period, including sports policies of 9 countries as case studies, and finally came up with about 35 documents and reports that were reviewed to provide content for the 3rd part of the task, which is how do we get to where we wish to be? Now, this was a drafting team of 35 people who were split into 19 drafting sub-teams made up of between 3 and 6 members per team. Let me praise Mr. Peter Nelson here, who was the only person that served in 6 different drafting teams. At one time, I'm sure he didn't know whether it was coming or going. But, at the end of the day, all the reports, all the sources, references, everything were dropped on the lap of these 35 members, and they took 3 weeks to complete their assignment, ably assisted by a team of coordinators who practically kept rushing them for this task. And at the end of 3 weeks, we got over 450 pages of documents from these people. It became a marathon. We were already behind by about a week, and it became a marathon to finally collate this draft by July 2020. And within 2 weeks, a small team led by my humble self we sat down and collated everything that was written into what we now have, a 72-page document that will be presenting to the minister. It is worth mentioning that up to 800 persons contributed in one way or the other during the past 4 years to what you are seeing today. All the members of the SIWG coordinating committee kept getting weekly reports, and I think it is important to actually say here, at no time did anybody from the ministry or from anywhere come and say, this is what we're looking for. You must go in this direction or that direction. Everybody was left to come up with what their hearts and minds and brains and senses told them was the way to go. And today, this is where we are now with the 172-page document. Let me also say, and at this stage, I'm going to ask Zeno to please put up on the screen a brief. We have 8 chapters in this document, and this document, each chapter deals with an aspect of what we expect to find. That's the cover page. Next slide, please, Zeno. And we've tried as much as continue sliding. I'll keep talking, just continue sliding. We've tried as much as possible to capture the essence of the sport in Nigeria. Those who have contributed in one way or the other to where we have reached. We've got a table of content, just keep sliding. And then we've got the Honorable Minister tell us his thoughts in a forward. And we've also now got the acknowledgements from the Permanent Secretary acknowledging everybody who had something to do with this. And then each chapter has a color scheme attached to it. So the history of sports in Nigeria. Next slide, please. And you can see and with a color scheme that matches that chapter for the pages, for the text. Chapter 2, background to how we got where we were. It's important to say how we got here. Chapter 3, the philosophy, vision, mission, values, and objectives of the sports policy. This was incredibly interesting. And we had pictures of people, keep sliding, pictures of people who had been part of one stakeholder session or the other. So chapter 4, the obligations of the 3 tiers of government. And this time, in addition to the 3 tiers of government, we now have other stakeholders like the private sector and social enterprise sector, in line with the thinking that sports should be seen as a business, as an industry. We've identified all the areas of the business in a circle. And so next slide, please. Next slide, please. And so chapter 5, the main policy thrust areas. There are 10 sections here dealing with federations, dealing with everything, health, education, legal, the works, including social development, capacity development, e-commerce, digital sports and digital atmosphere. And finally, we come to chapter 6, which was very critical to everybody. How do we implement? How do we monitor? How do we evaluate? And how do we review? So all the people involved in how we implement, monitor, evaluate, and review are all, this showed us that the Ministry of Youth and Sports is central to all of them coming into this process. Next slide, please. Chapter 7 is where we list out everyone who has contributed to this process, all 800 people, reports, sources, and references that we used to get to this point. And then chapter 8, last slide, chapter 8 is our appendices. But what's interesting about the appendices is that the first one is the list of all action points that should be implemented within the first 12 to 24 months from approval. And so they were taken from all the chapters and sections and coalesced here. So at a glance, you will see the level of work that needs to be done over the next 24 months to set a foundation for sports as an industry. I'm sure the minister is going to give us all kinds of very good news about how we have now been repositioned. So I don't want to steal his thunder. You know, it's been something that has been really very interesting for all of us. And finally, we have all the abbreviations. So this was what we put together over a 3-month period. And I must say that I have had most interesting time working with the most revolutionary of thinking that has come out from this 56-member group. On behalf of myself and the Sports Industry Thematic Group of the Economic Summit Group, I want to say a huge thank you to the Honorable Minister for seeing the possibilities and having the kind of reform-minded thinking that was required for us to get this point. So on that note, I'm going to call on two co-chairs, one of whom is far away in Akwa Ibom, and the other is in Abuja, to make a presentation of the 2020 Draft National Sports Industry Policy to the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Honorable Sunday Dare. It's my pleasure to call on this presentation to be made. Thank you. And there you have it, copies of the National Sports Industry Policy. Yes, sir. Since you are representing the SIWG, please stand where we can see you. We're not seeing you very well.
Minister needs to move back to air. Perfect. Perfect now.
Honorable Minister, please move. And then your head is cut off. This picture won't be nice, so.
Perfect.
So you can all unmute your mics and clap.
Yes,
Let's all unmute our mics and clap. What is a truly revolutionary day? What is a truly revolutionary day? We are so glad. Thank you very much. Please, can we now mute our mics back, because the Honorable Minister's speech is about to make his address, and I'd like us to listen very attentively. Honorable Minister always has something new to tell us. So it is my pleasure to call on Honorable Sunday Dare, Honorable Minister, Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, to give us his address. Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, we can't hear you.
Minister is still muted. He needs to unmute.
Okay, I can't see him.
Can you hear now?
I've done it.
Yeah, it's unmuted now. Yes, that's
Okay,
fine.
all right, sir.
Excellent. By first,
Honorable Minister, please, can we have your mask off a bit? Because the photographs are not going to be nice at all. So please, can we have your mask?
Now we can hear him and see him.
Thank you very much, sir.
See what you have done now, we can't hear you.
can you hear me now, everyone? We can
Yes.
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir. Yes, sir.
Loud and clear.
Yes, sir.
Let me thank everyone who's today part of the ceremony. Those in Abuja at the conference room of the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, those in Akwa, those in Lagos, those outside of the ministry, those in the United States, and I think a few members. I think that today's presentation momentous when you look at a journey that began over 3 years ago, a journey with a lot of twists and turns. At some point, that journey almost truncated. But we're glad that we had the opportunity to take over for 9 months. We saw all the stakeholders drive the process. I want to thank the NESG, especially the thematic group headed by my sister Ikechi, and also the SIWG and other critical stakeholders who later came on board. Without the work you have done over the years, over the months, this wouldn't have been possible. We have seen synergy, we have seen energy, we have also seen a collaborative spirit that has led the process this far. You have worked in an unfettered way, full independence, that has allowed you to open yourselves to other best practices around the world, to also look at what we've had as a country in terms of the last 2009 and 2018 National Sports Policy. You've also consulted several other documents that are relevant to your work. So this work you have done in the draft policy, I want to assure you and assure Nigerians, will stand the test of time. But I also know that it will deliver for our country the very vision that we need, the shot in the arm that we need to turn sports development in our country around. I did not go through the protocol initially because we've had a lot of protocol, but let me also thank the permanent secretary, who is also a co-chair and has also been a critical part of this process. My recognition will not be complete without singling out our man, my brother and friend, Mr. Ufot in Akwa Ibom. And indeed, Ikechi, who we call Dr. Ikechi, we conferred that on you because of your resilience, because of your industry, because of your tenacity throughout the process. And I hope that that will not disappear as we move to the next critical stage, that we have this ministry birth for the first time, a sports industry policy. I must also thank the directors, deputy directors, assistant directors of this ministry, whose contributions have been invaluable because they are a repository of knowledge. Some of them have been here 15 years, 20 years, 28 years. We thank you sincerely for the work you have done. Other stakeholders, Professor Abdullahi, the SAN, who helped in the drafting committee, My apologies, I can't reel out all the names, but I've spoken to some of you directly. I want to use this opportunity to really thank you for the work you have done so far. But let me also say that our work is not done yet. The NESG cannot go to sleep. The Ministry of Youth and Sports cannot go to sleep. We have come this far because we have joined both of our hands to clap together. You cannot clap with one hand. The NESG, leading the organized private sector, the Ministry of Youth and Sports have clapped together, worked together to come thus far. And I'm sure for the remaining steps and laps that we have to take, we will work together to deliver. So it is therefore with great delight that I address you on this very important occasion of the official presentation of the draft National Sports Industry Policy for Nigeria. This concerted effort by relevant stakeholders to change the face of running sports business in Nigeria is a remarkable milestone and a masterpiece that will stand the test of time. Let me therefore, on behalf of the Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, congratulate all members of the steering committee of the Sports Industry Working Group, the Policy Validation Committee, and indeed, the National Sport Industry Policy Drafting Committee for a yeoman's job. I also want to thank all relevant MDAs who have joined us since November last year when we had the technical session. The Ministry of Industries, Trade and Investment, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Women Affairs, the Ministry of Works and Housing, Justice, Science and Technology, and the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. It has indeed been a most collaborative effort. We have brought about linkages in all our efforts in order to make sure that we deliver a well-rounded sports industry policy that Nigeria rightly deserves. The reviewed sports industry policy draft that we see today, we believe will bring about a new dawn in sports development in our country. We believe it will drive the process of moving sports away from recreation to business. And we want to thank the federal government of Nigeria, particularly the Federal Executive Council, led by President Muhammadu Buhari, who several weeks ago reclassified in principle sports from recreation to business. What we're doing today is the policy that will be needed to drive that reclassification. I recall very clearly, barely less than 2 months when I was appointed the Sports and Youth Minister, I had the opportunity during the 25th Nigerian Economic Group Summit to chair the Sports Industry Business Roundtable session. The session featured various speakers from all sectors, emphasizing the challenges in developing sports as a viable business sector, capable of attracting investments and delivering returns to investors. This gave birth to setting up various groups to review our 2009 sports policy, 2018 sports policy, and other relevant documents. And I had Ikechi, or is it Mr. Aufort, who spoke about how I basically corralled the entire team from Transcorp the very following morning. Even though they were groggy, they were tired from the previous day, I insisted they showed up here at the ministry, and basically we had a robust engagement that battered the process that we are today witnessing. I want to thank you because you believed not just in me, but you also believed in the Ministry of Youth and Sports Development. In spite of the delays of the past, you believed that this was still possible. Let me also say that the draft National Sports Industry Policy, that is the 2009 and 2018 sports policy, 2018 and 2018 sports policy, and other relevant documents. And I had Ikechi, or is it Mr. Aufort, who spoke about how I basically corralled the entire team from Transcorp the very following morning. Even though they were groggy, they were tired from the previous day, I insisted they showed up here at the ministry, and basically we had a robust engagement that battered the process that we are today witnessing. I want to thank you because you believed not just in me, but you also believed in the Ministry of Youth and Sports Development. In spite of the delays of the past, you believed that this was still possible. Let me also say that the draft National Sports Industry Policy, which that is the 2009 were reviewed and efforts were made to update the norms and values in the sports industry in achieving the overall mandate, the vision, and the mission of the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development in line with international best practices. It is important to note that this reviewed national sports industry policy expectedly will provide solutions to 4 key trigger issues, what we love to call the 3 I's and 1 P, that will take sports to the next level. These are infrastructure, investment, incentives, and policy. I've had the pleasure to provide the foreword to this draft policy, and I will just read out 2 paragraphs that stand out clearly in the foreword I've written to the draft policy. In contemporary times, sports in its entirety has assumed a global political, economic, and social status, placing high on the agenda of governments. Leaders and countries have leveraged on excellence in sports to advance their power, navigate their diplomatic relations, but above all, generate employment, create jobs, and increase government revenue. Nigeria, a country where sporting talents abound, especially amongst its youth, and where participation in sport has experienced remarkable growth in the past decades, cannot be left out. The time for Nigeria to plug into the global business sports world is long overdue. But first, government is clear. It must lead the way by providing a policy that will drive the process. Hence, the draft National Sports Industry Policy. Therefore, this afternoon, it is my pleasure to have received from a team of over 300 or 800 people that have worked over the years, but especially over 300 have worked in the last 9 months to bring this to reality. I want to assure the sporting community, our athletes, active and retired, sport administrators, sport advisors, and indeed sport investors, that this draft national sports policy will receive the immediate attention it needs so that we can move to the next stage. We have a destination. The journey so far has been successful, irrespective of the challenges we have faced, and we're about reaching that destination. The draft policy presented today is a bold statement to the Nigerian sporting community on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria. Is a bold statement to the international sporting community that this country means business when it comes to sports development. Once again, I want to thank all of you for your work. I want to thank, once again, the ministries that will be working with us, not just in delivering this policy on sports industry, but its eventual implementation when it is eventually approved. Ultimately, we do hope that sometime, either the first week of September, the Ministry of Youth and Sports Development will be able to take before the Federal Executive Council and present for approval the National Sports Industry Policy. I thank you for the work you have done in the past. I thank you for the work you're doing now. And I thank you for the work we all have to do. This is the final lapse. We're going to breast the tape very soon. And it's only when we do that that we can beat our chest. Just like Mary, you're here. When they run on the track, it is when you breast that tape and you look at the scoreboard and you see, then you can say you have indeed delivered. I hope that will be our portion eventually. So we must not rest on our oars. The final laps often will be tough. We have to manage and work as a team so that we can deliver what is good for our country. Once again, I thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you very, very much, Honorable Minister. That sporting analogy was absolutely on point because, you know, the other day I was saying, oh, so we're here. Then it dawned on me that we have not actually reached the end of the journey, which is that we go from draft to the 2020 National Sports Industry Policy. So we're looking forward to, it's like a marathoner. We hope we won't hit a wall, but I don't think we will hit that wall. I think we've passed the stage of the wall, and we're now going to find that adrenaline that gets us, you know, even if we have to crawl over the line, gets us over that line. Um, a wonderful address, and we're glad to hear about the Federal Executive Council redesignating sports as a business. That is so encouraging. It's almost, it's very giddy. It makes you feel pretty giddy and opens up all the opportunities. I'm going to call on Mr. Peter Nelson, Director, Planning, Monitoring, and Information, Federal Minister of Youth and Sports Development, and the co-lead with Chijioke Okoli, SAN, of the drafting, the Development and Drafting Committee that brought us this far to now give us a next steps, a wrap-up, and a vote of thanks. Mr. Peter Nelson, please unmute your mic and start your video, and then we'll take you from there. Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. It's your turn to tell us what the next steps are.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wrap up this event and then thank us very nicely with item 7 included in the menu.
Don't worry, you'll get it so soon. Thank you very much, Nkechi Obi. Yes, I just have 2 assignments here, but also I must appreciate all the presentations so far. The Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports, Mr. Sunday Dare, the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Gabriel Aduda, the Private Sector Chairman, Mr. Deme Ufot. Please, can you permit me to stand on existing protocol? The process of approving and passing the policy requires that the draft document should be validated by both the government, public, and the National Council of Sports before getting a nod to the Attorney General of the Federation and the presentation to the Federal Executive Council for approval. The next step here is the policy development and approval process. For step 2 is the stakeholders and general public validation. The draft policy document will be uploaded to the Federal Ministry of Youth website, where interested stakeholders and members of the public can visit and view the document and provide a feedback via Google review form that will be attached to the document. Only feedback provided by the Google review form will be accepted, and the feedback, so that people are encouraged to use the form to send us their own views. All feedback will be collated into a report form that will be reviewed by the coordinating committee for further action. The duration of the validation by the general public is 10 days, not later than 7th of August 2020. The website address is www.youthandsports.gov.ng. Interested partners can also visit www.nsggroup.org to review their draft policy and fill out their review form. 2, the National Council for Sports, the NCS, validation. Electronic copies of the draft policy will be provided to all members of the NCS for a review and comments. A final copy of the draft copy will be reviewed after we have collected all necessary documents. A meeting of the NCS will be held to adopt the policy, after which the documents will be forwarded to the Attorney General of the Federation for final inputs. It is expected that this step of validation will be completed not later than 21st of August 2020. 21st of August 2020. These are the necessary steps we need to take to achieve the next level. We have to get this done in this format so that we'll get the most appropriate cooperation from the members of the public and to be able to coordinate all necessary documents that will help us to move to the next level. I want to thank you all for listening, and I pray that Almighty God will stay us so that we can complete this job in the mighty name of Jesus. Thank you very much, and God bless you all. Nkechi?
I'm here. I'm right here. I'm right here.
I can hear you.
I would like, with the kind permission of the Honorable Minister, to get a viewpoint from Mr. Chijioke Okoli, SAN, who between him and Mr. Nelson took us through this process. So Chijioke, very briefly, just help us give the Honorable Minister mentioned you. Please just briefly give us your viewpoints about this process. If you unmute your mic, you can go ahead, and then we can now close with the national anthem.
Is that the SAN?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Yes.
Please, may I stand on all existing protocol? The day is far gone. I must thank the Honorable Minister for this momentous event. We're on the threshold of something great. All of us who participated in this process, it's been tough. 2-3 nights, but it gives us a particular joy. Like that sometimes the great war Prime Minister Winston Churchill said something about this being the finest hour of the breaks. I think that when we look back on the history of sports in Nigeria, and I affirm by faith that we will say that this is probably the greatest time by which we give sports the necessary fillip that it requires. And I thank once more this government, thank the Honorable Minister for the vision which he has brought to bear and the vigor. And then I thank each and everybody who's been involved in this matter. It's a matter of, it's just passion, raw passion that's been driving us, particularly when we know that we are on the threshold of something great. We push through this, and for each and every one of us, and particularly Nigeria, beyond the podium, but also in the bottom line, the economy of the country, that this will give it the necessary infrastructure to proceed. So I thank everybody. I thank Nkechi. I don't know where she gets her energy. I'm gonna single her out. And NESG for being there, having the vision to see that sports is one huge economic sector that has been overlooked. But now we are starting to do the needful, and we'll all be the better for it. Thank you, each and every one of us.
Chijioke, it seems like you took the words right out of our mouths by doing the vote of thanks for your colleague. And on that note, Honorable Minister, on a personal note, I want to say thank you. I know there were times when I must have been like the proverbial bed bug that probably send you messages at 3 a.m. and wondering why. I used to wonder why I expected you to be up to read them, but I knew eventually you would. Sometimes you wouldn't say anything to me, but things will get done. So I want to thank you for that unusual privilege that that you gave for us to do this. I also want to thank everyone that I harassed through this process. And I mean, I really did harass people, you know, and send messages at the oddest hours and get people cracking. But it's always been something we felt that needed to be done. And so when you find I've been told by the NESG, when you find a willing reformer, you must honestly take advantage of that to get things done. The Honorable Minister showed himself, and we decided that if he wanted to run, we will run to keep pace with him. He is a very hard taskmaster, and we are glad that we're here. Now, the next 4 to 5 weeks are critical, and I'm sure he will call us back. So on that note, it's time to bring this event to a close so that people can go and get some well-deserved rest. Thank God it's coming very close to a public holiday, so we can have a long weekend and think through how we are going to get views from over how many thousands of people who I'm sure are going to beseech the ministry's website this afternoon and beseech the NESG website to download this document. Thank you very much. And I'll call for the national anthem. But this time, I think I'll ask one person to sing. We sounded like we would never make the audition for Song of the Year. So can I please call on Ambassador Onyali? Are you here? So you take us through the national anthem and we will stand at attention. Thank you very much.
Arise, O compatriot, Nigeria's Lord, to serve Father with love and strength.
Shall never be.
One nation bound in freedom.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. God bless. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, HM. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Nwosu, my CEO.
Thank you, Minister from Miami.
And where is item 7? Where is item 7?
I am waiting. I am waiting. I'm waiting.
Hey, Peter, where is item 7?
Nkechi, we need to have a group photo.
Okay, group photo, please. Everybody, put on your videos. Please, can you help me call the please put on your videos and put on your videos, please. And everybody seated. Please, 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 please. Put on your videos and let's get group photos. Please, everybody, please start your videos. Start your videos.
You have to enable my video. My video has been frozen.
Oh, okay.
You have to enable, you have to enable mine too.
Okay, I'm doing that now. I'm doing that. Please, just everybody, please bear with us. We will put on the videos now. Please bear with us. Please. I'm having to start all the videos.
Nkechi,
Sir?
you may want to enable our videos.
That's what I'm doing.
All
That's
right.
what I'm doing. I'm doing that. I've asked you to start your video. So
Yeah, we cannot. You have to do it. I think you do it individually, right?
yes, that's what I'm doing. So there are so many. I'm doing that. Yeah.
Is Minister giving the interview?
Just a minute. I think I've started all videos. Just check if your video is not on. I'm starting.
Mine
it.
is not on.
Okay, I'm starting it. Yeah.
Nkechi, mine is not on. The very first.
That's what I'm doing.
Device.
Mine is on. Mine is on now.
Mine is not on. No.
Okay.
Mine is
Sorry,
not
It's
on.
on now.
Just is on now. It should be on. You know how
Mine
many
is
you
not.
are?
Mine is not on.
Okay, mine is on now.
Yeah, menu.
Yes, mine is not on. No.
It's Wale Adekola.
Yeah. Mine is not on, please.
Who is that?
Alanamu is my name. Mine is not on.
Just a minute. I'll get to you. Wale
Adekola is not on yet.
I keep pressing it and he's not responding.
Wale was on before. I don't know why Wale went away.
How are you, Doctor? How are you?
You're not responding. I'm trying. Maybe you're not connected with your video because I keep pressing and it is telling me. Okay. I've pressed Engineer Lanamu. I've pressed everything. And it's not answering me.
Not on.
Start it yourself.
I'm doing so, but it's not responding.
Okay.